You're certainly one of the tallest clever people in racing, aren't you?
That's just high-heeled socks on today.
The chairs are a bit lower this year, which is good. Welcome to the show, Nick. You're exhibiting for the first time. Do you sort of look around Autosport Engineering and think, oh, we should have been here last year and the year before? And
Well, actually, I think that this year is the perfect year for us to be here for the first time. 2014 represents a really important year for our company as we not only consolidate on the work we're doing in motorsport, but really begin to introduce the world to the amazing engineering work we're doing outside of motorsport.
yeah, we'll touch on that in a minute because I'm fascinated to hear some of the ways you do that. Let's talk about Honda. You've been very much involved with Honda and their sports car program with HPD. Is that still going on?
Absolutely. It's been a very interesting sort of close of the last era, start of the new era. So 2014 represents the first time that the new LMP1 rules come in. I personally think it's a huge step forward for the sport. The direction they're going in terms of energy efficiency and using less fuel is amazing. The only issue is the cost of the cars has really hit the privateer team. So at the moment, there's only one privateer team announced for 2014, which is Rebellion. So that's we're ready with a car to those regulations. What's also exciting is that the ACO have announced that the LMP1 coupe monocoques will be allowed to be integrated into new LMP2 cars. So watch the space between this fantastic ongoing partnership between us and HPD Honda Performance Development in sports cars. To some announcements going on there.
Is that an attempt to narrow the gap between LMP1 and LMP2?
No, I think LMP2 has been around, having this mix of full pro and semi-pro drivers, and obviously the semi-pro drivers are the ones who tend to bring the funds to those programs. And some very famous ones have quite stiff insurance policies, which means that the insurance companies would be happier if they drove with a lid on. So I think, honestly, I think that most motorsport in the next decade is going to transition towards, even single-seaters, transition towards closed cockpits. I think it's just moving in that direction. So we're completely comfortable with it.
I remember a time not so long ago where LMP2 was a real sort of reliability graveyard, wasn't it? The cars fell to bits. If you finished at Le Mans, you won the class. Now, it's massively competitive, and there are just dozens of different applications in terms of chassis and engine. It's almost better than LMP1, isn't it?
Well, I think I'd like to say that we were quite a big part of that process, because when we got involved with Acura in North America in the amazing battles between Acura and Porsche the latter half of last decade, Porsche had set this standard with the RS Spider of an amazingly well-built car, and sports car racing is about reliability. You have to finish. So we developed the technology to fight and ultimately beat them in North America. And then Straka Racing, this tiny team, came for the first time and said, hey, can we run one of these cars at Le Mans in 2010? And so we adapted a low-drag body kit to that car and went to Le Mans and broke every single record that had ever been in P2 up to that point. I think we did 5,001 kilometers with a P2 car, and we did the race like the top P1 cars were doing. It was tyres and fuel. I think we spent 40 minutes in the pits the entire 24 hours, and we sort of raised the bar in P2. We won the World Championship by having great reliability. I think everybody has seen that level, and that's the way it needs to be now.
Is there a vast difference underneath between an LMP2 and LMP1, particularly in HPD's case, because they've done both? Is it clean sheet of paper stuff?
No, they're very, very similar. The current open-top P2 cars, the ARX 03 cars, of which we got cars running in North America, and actually a new team announced this week for the WEC, the Woodard entry. So they're very similar. There's slight difference in materials in the transmission, and obviously the suspension and wheels are obviously different, and bodywork. But a lot of the underneath of the cars are very similar.
So you're exhibiting here. Presumably you are looking to get involved with somebody who wants to start at the beginning? You're going to design a car for somebody? This is the place, isn't it, where you never know what sort of business turns up here.
Well, obviously what we're most interested in is competing in championships where we can show our technology compared to other chassis manufacturers. So unfortunately, quite a few competitions around the world are limited in that respect. We are super excited about going with our friends and long-term partners, HPD, working with them to do the new engine manufacturer body kits for 2015. So a big project for us, and HPD is supporting that with our IndyCar program. We're very interested in the new LMP3 formula that has come up from the ACO are talking about, which is a fixed engine, fixed tyres, and people will be able to really only choose different chassis. So that's a great thing for us to be interested in. GT racing. There's a lot of formulas out there where our technology would have great relevance, and we're happy to talk about that.
So you won't limit yourself to prototypes? You could take a GT car?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, our prototype work in sports cars, with the exception of LMP3, we have a long-term arrangement with Honda Performance Development, so we won't be doing anything other than with them. But outside of that, we're pretty much free to do whatever we want.
You touched on these applications out of motor racing. What do you mean by that? Give us an example.
Well, it's the last few years has been an extremely interesting process for us, as we have we've developed this technology almost like the Galapagos Islands. This technology has been evolved to be successful in IndyCar racing, in sports car racing. And what's incredible is we've started looking outside of the box of motorsport and found with some amazing companies that we're working in partnership with that our technology has amazing potential and relevance in industries as diverse as architecture, in commercial vehicles, and actually now more in the defence sector as well. So we have been gradually, inexorably expanding outside of motorsport. And what's I'm very proud of is that this technology was born in the fire of competition of motorsport. We would not be able to take this technology outside motor racing without the competition within it to develop it. So it is the greatest thing that motorsport can give back, in my opinion.
Whisper it. Are you sort of stealing a march on your competition there by getting involved in, or is that a bandwagon that you find people are jumping on?
I mean, you know, our competitors are looking like we are in many, many sectors, but what's interesting is that the people we're involved with, for example, in architecture, we have a rather small little architectural practice called Foster's and Partners, who we work with, and they seem to think that we are the only people who can do the sort of work, they're interested in. We've got some very exciting announcements to make in the coming months with regard to our work in commercial vehicles that has been going on for 5 years, but not for this show. And, you know, it's if you look on our website, you'll notice that we're doing work with small military companies such as Lockheed Martin. So for people who
dark horse, you.
Exactly. So for people who can design the stealth fighter and the Blackbird and amazing companies like that, if they can find use in our technology, I think that says a lot about the level of technology in British motorsport.
I think I better let you go. I think you sound quite busy. Who's manning your stand while you're here?
Well, we've got a few of our top engineers over there, so if anyone wants to go and have a chat, they'll be more than welcome to visit.
You haven't left that Crompton man on his own, have you?
No.
Where is he?
He's under control.
Is he here? No. There he is. All right, mate. Right, good to see you. Have a
Thank you very much
exciting
indeed.
And busy and successful year, won't you?
We will, yeah. Thank you for inviting us. Cheers.
You're welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Wirth.